Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and in this video we are going to make a rich, beefy, tender Osso Buco. Osso Buco is traditionally made by braising veal shanks. I'm going to be using beef shanks because I bought half a cow last autumn. Additionally, because beef shanks are kind of a tough meat with a lot of connective tissue and fat, you can often find them fairly inexpensively at your butcher counter. Now, as I said, we are going to be braising these beef shanks, which kind of makes it not so much a weeknight meal. It's not a super quick meal that can be whipped up, but it's also not like a set it and forget it in the crock pot sort of meal that you can start in the morning and then come home and eat. So this one is pretty much reserved for the weekends. Also, don't get real hung up on the measurements and all of this. If you're close, that's good enough. This is a pretty forgiving recipe. So, with that preamble out of the way, let's make some Osso Buco. I'm going to start by preheating my oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be 190 Celsius. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil to a large Dutch oven. That would be 30 mil. And I'm going to bring the temp on that up to medium-high. While that heats up, I'm going to prep my beef shanks by salting them fairly liberally on all sides. I have 3 pounds of beef shanks. That's about 2.3 kilos. Your weight may vary. Once the oil is shimmering, as you can see, I hope here, I'm going to add my beef shanks and sear them and try and get a decent crust on all sides. This will involve searing each side for about 3 minutes. Let's check out the first side. Pretty good, a little uneven, but that's okay. Now we'll sear the second side, and let's take a look at that. Ooh, now that's what I'm talking about. So now time to get the edges, which can be a little bit of a balancing act. We'll see if we can get these positioned here, perhaps leaning against the side of the Dutch oven if necessary. And once all sides have been seared and have a nice little crust on them, we're going to remove them to a separate plate and begin making our mirepoix. Now, unfortunately, my wife was a little too interested in the steaks, or I was a little too eager, and I started adding ingredients already. The first of which was 1/2 cup of carrots, or 60 grams. Then, 1/3 of a cup of celery, that's 40 grams. 1/2 of a medium onion diced up, that's 85 grams. 2 cloves of minced garlic. And finally, 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, or a tablespoon if you're using fresh. We're going to cook this until the vegetables are starting to get soft. Then we're going to add some dry white wine. This is just a cheap $5 bottle of Pinot Grigio from Costco, 1 cup or 250 ml. We're going to cook this for a few minutes until it reduces by about half. Then we're going to add some canned diced tomatoes, 250 grams or 1 cup, and some chicken stock, also 1 cup or 250 ml. Stir this around, making sure that we get all of the crusty bits of flavor off the bottom, and then once it comes to a boil, we're going to add back our beef shanks. Now, I don't know if this is necessary or not, but I like to kind of toss and flip the beef shanks in the braising liquid just to make sure it's fully coated. Then I'll nestle the shanks down in the braising liquid and vegetables. Cover it, and this will go into the oven for 2 hours and 15 minutes. It has been 2 hours and 15 minutes, so let's remove the beef shanks. We're going to let these sit for about 10 to 15 minutes, but first let's take a look. Ooh, wow. While the beef rests, I'm going to make some gremolata. Gremolata has a nice, bright flavor to it, which really plays off well or contrasts well with the really rich, beefy flavor that we're going to get from these beef shanks. But again, completely optional. I'm going to start by finely chopping a fistful of Italian parsley. Then we're going to use the zest of 1 lemon, and here's a little tip for you. If you're using a zester or microplane, turn it upside down. This will give you a lot better control over where the zest lands. See? just like that. Then we have 1 teaspoon of horseradish. You can use fresh horseradish or prepared horseradish, just not the creamy sauce. Then I'll transfer all 3 ingredients to a small bowl, mix them together for 10-15 seconds, however long it takes to make sure that all your ingredients are evenly distributed. And now it's time to plate up our Osso Buco. Now the great thing about this is as it braises, all of that connective tissue starts to break down, so you can pretty much just pull the meat chunks away from any connective tissue or big chunks of fat. I'll add a little bit of vegetable here, and a spoonful of that rendered fat. Ooh. And finally, add a sprinkle of that Gremolata. In addition to the bright flavor of the Gremolata, it also adds a really nice color contrast to this meal, making it look even yummier. Wow, that is rich. Rich and beefy. Now let's try a little of this marrow. There were some Carb Master dinner rolls on sale or in clearance today that I picked up. There we go. That is the beefiest thing I have ever tasted. Like, if you are at all squeamish about the notion of eating bone marrow, I'm telling you, it is meat butter. It is, seriously, you are not going to taste something that has a richer, deeper beef flavor than roasted marrow. Oh, wow. So good. Down in the description below, I will include a link to the printable recipe with all the macronutrients. Now, a note on that. There is going to be a little bit of variation in the actual macronutrients because I made this recipe assuming that you're eating everything. You're basically licking the bowl clean. So, if you want less fat, just don't spoon the fat on. If you want fewer carbs, don't eat all the vegetables. Just be aware that my calculations are going to err on the high side in terms of both fat and carbs. Additionally, I will include links to any of the little bits of equipment that I used, including the Dutch oven, variable measuring cup. There might be something else in there too, but those will be linked down in the description as well. Finally, in terms of marrow bones, I am definitely going to be experimenting with marrow bones more in the future. At some point we'll have a video on that because, oh man, I know it seems weird, but it is so delicious. So stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click that like button. If you're not a subscriber already, tap that subscribe button, then hit the bell to turn on all notifications. And if you want to help out the channel and get some perks in return, click that join button and see what channel membership is all about. Thanks for watching.